You wake up tired, again, and you tell yourself it's normal, that everyone feels this empty, that grinding until you break is just what adults do. But what if I told you? Your exhaustion isn't an accident. What if your burnout was always the plan? You see, there's something they never tell you about modern life, something hidden in plain sight. The system that promised you success, fulfillment, happiness, it needs you broken. It needs you too tired to ask questions, too drained to resist. Your burnout isn't a bug, it's a feature. Think about it. When did you last have the energy to dream, to create something that mattered to you, to stand up for what you believe in? When you're running on empty, you don't rebel, you comply. This goes deeper than overwork, deeper than bad bosses or impossible deadlines. This is about how you were trained to disappear. Slowly, with applause. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask you wear to survive. But here's what he knew that we forgot. When you wear the mask too long, it starts wearing you. You learn to be productive, useful, efficient. You learn that your worth came from what you could do, not who you are. And somewhere along the way, you forgot there was a difference. The real you, the one with dreams and boundaries and wild ideas, that version became inconvenient, selfish, unrealistic. So you buried it and called it growing up. But your soul doesn't care about your productivity metrics. It doesn't care about your performance reviews or your LinkedIn posts. It's been screaming for years, and you've been calling that scream burnout. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. Your exhaustion is rebellion. Your body is fighting back against a life that isn't yours. You think you're broken, but you're not broken. You're just living someone else's dream. The system taught you to measure your worth by your output, to see rest as laziness, to believe that if you're not constantly improving, you're falling behind. But Nietzsche saw through this lie. He knew that what we call virtue is often just another form of slavery, that what we call success can be the death of the soul. You've been running a race you never signed up for, toward a finish line that keeps moving. And the prize? More running. Your burnout isn't telling you to work harder, it's telling you to stop working for a life you don't want. Let me ask you something. If you weren't afraid, who would you be? If you didn't need anyone's permission, what would you create? If you stopped optimizing yourself for other people's comfort, what would emerge? Your shadow knows. That part of you that you've been hiding, even from yourself. It remembers who you were before you learned to perform, before you learned that love came with conditions, before you learned to shrink. Jung said we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your burnout is that darkness made conscious. It's your psyche's way of saying, this isn't working. The persona you've been wearing, it's suffocating you. The life you've been living, it belongs to someone else. And the most terrifying part? You've been so good at pretending, you almost convinced yourself it was real. But here's what happens when you start to wake up. When you begin to question the rules that were never yours to follow. They tell you you're being selfish, ungrateful, unrealistic. They tell you this is just how life is, that everyone struggles, that you should be grateful for what you have. But Machiavelli understood something about power that we forgot. He knew that those who benefit from your compliance will always frame your resistance as a moral failing. Your exhaustion serves them. Your self-doubt serves them. Your guilt about wanting more, that serves them too. Because when you're too tired to dream, you're too tired to demand better. You're not too much. You were just never mirrored properly. You were taught to dim your light so others could feel comfortable in their darkness. But your light wasn't meant to be comfortable. It was meant to illuminate. Here's what no one tells you about burnout recovery. It's not about better time management or self-care routines. It's not about finding balance in a system designed to drain you. It's about remembering who you are when no one is watching. When there's no performance to give, no mask to wear, no role to play. It's about integration, taking back the parts of yourself you gave away to survive. You don't owe safety to people who demand your silence. You don't owe comfort to people who profit from your pain. You don't owe performance to people who refuse to see your humanity. You have the right to disappoint people who want you to stay small. You have the right to be inconvenient. You have the right to want more than survival. Being too nice is how you disappear, slowly, and with applause. Your burnout is trying to save you. From a life hack lived, from dreams deferred, from a future that looks exactly like your past. It's your unconscious mind staging an intervention. saying, we can't keep doing this. Something has to change. And here's the plot twist. The change isn't external. It's not about finding the perfect job or the right relationship or the ideal life circumstances. The change is internal. It's about stopping the war between who you are and who you think you should be. Freud talked about the death drive, the part of us that moves toward destruction. But what if your burnout isn't destruction? What if it's resurrection? What if you had to die to who you thought you were, to become who you actually are? Let me tell you what happens when you stop performing. When you stop optimizing, when you stop running towards someone else's finish line. The world doesn't end, the sky doesn't fall. The people who love the real you, they celebrate. The people who only love your performance, they disappear. And for the first time in years, you can breathe. You realize that you don't have to earn love. You don't have to justify your existence. You don't have to prove your worth through productivity. You just have to be, and being is enough. You're not broken. You were just never allowed to be whole. You were taught that your needs were too much, your feelings were too intense, your dreams were too big. But what if you're not too much? What if the world is just too small for who you really are? Here's your permission slip, the one you've been waiting for, the one no one else can give you. You can stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You can stop shrinking for people who feel threatened by your growth. You can stop performing for people who will never be satisfied. You can choose discomfort over resentment, truth over approval, authenticity over acceptance. You can disappoint people. You can be inconvenient. You can take up space. You can be real. Your burnout was never the problem. Your burnout was the solution to a problem you didn't know you had. The problem of living someone else's life. The problem of wearing someone else's dreams. The problem of forgetting who you are in the noise of who you should be. If you weren't afraid, you'd already be living the life that's calling you. If you weren't performing, you'd already be creating what matters. If you weren't hiding, you'd already be free. Your soul has been patient, but it's done waiting. The real you was never meant to be silent. It was never meant to be small. It was never meant to disappear. It was just waiting for this moment. When you'd finally remember who you are. You thought survival meant being quiet, but the real you was never meant to be silent. The room feels different now because you're finally in it. If this helped you remember something true about yourself, hit subscribe. You're not alone in this. And you're not broken. You're just ready to be real. Comment, I see myself now, if this felt like it was written about you. Let's build a community of people who choose authenticity over performance, who choose truth over comfort, who choose themselves over everyone else's expectations. Your burnout brought you here, but your courage will take you home.